Right now, your dominant hand is probably resting closer to this screen than your other one. You already know which hand it is without looking. You have always known. And the strange part is that this feels like a personal quirk, something specific to you. It is not. It is something your lineage has been doing for nearly 2 million years. 99% of people alive today have a dominant hand. 70 to 95% of them prefer the right one. No other placental mammal on Earth shows that kind of consistency. Not chimpanzees. Not gorillas. Not any of your closest primate relatives. This is a human thing, and it is old enough that the evidence for it turns up not in history books, but in bones. Start with a Neanderthal in what is now Croatia, living around 130,000 years ago. This individual had a habit. When processing animal hide, they would clamp one end of the skin between their front teeth to hold it still, pull the other end taut with one hand, and scrape the surface clean with a stone tool held in the other. Simple, effective, and occasionally sloppy. Because every so often the scraper would skip off the hide and catch the surface of their incisors instead. Each slip left a tiny diagonal scratch on the enamel. Those scratches are still there. And they tell you something precise. The direction of the marks, running from upper left to lower right, reveals exactly which hand was holding the tool. It was the right one. This Neanderthal was right-handed, and they were not alone. When researchers examined upper arm bones from multiple Neanderthal individuals, they found the same pattern your body shows when you favor one limb over another. Repeated asymmetric use makes a bone denser and thicker over time. Neanderthal right arm bones were consistently heavier than their left arm bones. The same asymmetry you find in professional tennis players today, visible in fossils from a species that went extinct 40,000 years ago. So how far back does this actually go? At a site in Spain, researchers examined teeth belonging to Homo heidelbergensis, the species thought to be the last common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. The same telltale scratches appeared on those teeth, the same diagonal marks, the same right-hand dominance. And those individuals lived 500,000 years ago. Then there is a Homo habilis specimen from Tanzania, dated to 1.8 million years ago, a single individual. But the scratches on its teeth point in the same direction as all the others. One specimen does not prove a species-wide preference. But it does tell you that whatever was happening in human hands was happening very early. None of this shows up in chimpanzees or gorillas in any consistent way. Individual chimps may show weak hand preferences, but there is no population-wide lean toward right or left the way there is in humans. Which means this trait did not come from a shared ancestor with the other apes. It emerged somewhere in the hominin lineage, specifically the branch that leads to you after that split happened. But why did it happen at all? Your brain is not symmetrical. This is true of all vertebrates, but in humans it is unusually pronounced. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere handle different tasks, a division called lateralization. In most people, a region of the left hemisphere called BA44 plays a central role in object manipulation, including the planning and execution of tool use. Since the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, the right hand becomes the natural executor of anything tool-related. The theory is that as stone tool technology became more complex and more central to survival, the left hemisphere became increasingly specialized for the job. And the right hand, as the output of that hemisphere, got sharper and more practiced, generation by generation. Bipedalism may have set the stage for all of this even earlier. When you move on 2 legs instead of 4, your hands are freed from locomotion entirely. Some other bipedal mammals, kangaroos among them, show population-level hand preferences too. They lean left rather than right, and they do not use tools the way humans do, which suggests that walking upright was a prerequisite, something that made hand dominance possible. While tool use may have been what pushed the right hand specifically into the lead for humans, here's where the picture gets more complicated. Genetics research has tried for years to find the handedness gene, the single switch that would explain why 90% of people reach for the same side. It has not found one. Handedness appears to be heritable to some degree, and men are left-handed more often than women, but the pattern looks less like a single gene and more like several genes exerting small overlapping influences. The environment during development likely matters too. The full mechanism is still not resolved. But this raises an obvious question. If right-handedness has deep evolutionary roots and the left hemisphere became specialized through hundreds of thousands of years of tool use, why does left-handedness exist at all? One hypothesis is that the whole population may have been right-handed at some point, and that left-handedness re-emerged later through one or several mutations. And if it re-emerged, it must have offered something worth keeping. Left-handed people tend to have brains that are less lateralized than right-handed people. Information processing is distributed more evenly across both hemispheres, which appears to be associated with stronger coordination, certain verbal abilities, and better memory in some studies. But the advantage that shows up most consistently is this one. In any situation that involves one person directly engaging another, left-handers have the element of surprise. In a world where nearly everyone you have ever practiced against, sparred with, or competed with throws their strongest move from the right, a left-handed opponent is an outlier. The angle is wrong. The timing is off. Your defensive instincts, built from thousands of repetitions against right-handed opponents, are suddenly miscalibrated. This effect shows up clearly in sports today. Left-handed boxers and mixed martial artists win at higher rates than their right-handed counterparts. The advantage is strong in interactive sports and essentially disappears in non-interactive ones like darts, where there is no opponent to be surprised. A 2019 study confirmed that left-handed fighters win significantly more often than expected. In a world where physical confrontation once had direct survival stakes, this was not a trivial edge. And the frequency of left-handedness, consistently around 10% across virtually every human population ever studied, fits neatly with this explanation. If left-handers had no advantage, natural selection would have likely pushed the number lower over time. If the advantage were too strong or the numbers got too high, it would disappear, because the edge comes from being unexpected, and you cannot be unexpected when half the population is like you. 10% is roughly where the benefit and the scarcity balance out. So this is what you are actually holding when you pick something up with your dominant hand? An evolutionary history that began before language, before culture, before anything you would recognize as human society. A brain that reorganized itself around tool use over millions of years until one hemisphere pulled so far ahead that it became the default seat of skilled movement. A species-wide preference so deeply wired that it shows up in cave paintings, where the vast majority of hand stencils are left hands, meaning the artists were pressing their non-dominant hand against the rock and blowing pigment over it with the dominant one. Your right hand is stronger than your left, not because you practiced more, though practice does play a role. It is stronger because 1.8 million years of ancestors gripped stone tools and animal hides and scraped and cut and shaped the world with the same hand you are probably using right now. And the hand you do not use, that one, has its own story. 10% of the population carries it, and quietly, in the right circumstances, it still wins.